and always really powerful experience to hear straight from the youth the things that they are most passionate about through their poems. So if people want to find out more, you can search for Victoria's Voices online, vicvoices.com, or go to the website for the Roxy Theater to buy tickets. And we do appreciate people buying tickets in advance so that we can plan the seating accordingly and do so in a COVID-safe way. We've been online for the last 2 years for 2 virtual pandemic festivals, and they have been awesome. But there's nothing like the energy of an in-person poetry slam, and we're really excited to be back in a room together for the performances and to have a supportive audience there cheering the youth on.
So as Jeremy and I've got Brad here, and I'm going to ask him to introduce the poets, and then maybe we'll start from there.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks so much for having us and hosting us here. It's been, as Jeremy said, it's been a long 2 years waiting to get back in front of an audience, and these poets are super amazing and super excited for doing it. And one unique thing is that because of that 2 years of virtual performances, these students haven't competed yet. So it's going to be all kind of new competition for them. In the basement closet, we have Scott, we have Jez, we have Tori, and we have Liv. These are 4 students from Reynolds Secondary who have been working all year writing and developing their poetry, and just really, really excited to finally have an audience beyond the school to share it with. So I think if what we're going to do is have the poets maybe introduce themselves, introduce their pronouns, and maybe just say to start, what's something that's kind of like filled you in terms of like writing, like what's been an inspiration over these past 2 years? What has brought you kind of hope and joy, or allowed you to express yourself in times of not hope and joy through poetry? So maybe Scott, can we start with you, and you can introduce yourself and maybe have a go at that question, and we'll go around from there.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Brad. My name's Scott. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm a student at Reynolds Secondary. I've been doing poetry for a very long time now, and speech arts before that. And I think I come to poetry because it gives me a place where I can talk about the things that I care about deeply, the things that I've struggled with in my life, and find a way to express and connect with others and my peers around me. I really love sharing and expressing my poetry with others because I think the art of sharing storytelling helps us all to feel more connected as a community, and it's great to know that my art could just make one more person feel safe. I'll pass it on to Jez.
Oh, me? Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, my name is Jez. I use he, him pronouns, and I've been doing poetry for such a long time, ever since I was a kid, and I was never really drawn into it until I was, 7 years old, and I think I fell in love with, literature in general, not just poetry, just because I love, the history behind it, and also I fell in love with slam poetry when I was 10 years old, and I started writing my own slams, too. And I think, yeah, same as Scott, what they said, just making people feel safe and evoking emotions, whether it be good emotions or sad emotions. But other than that, yeah. Sorry.
I'm Tori. My pronouns are they, them as well. I'm also from Reynolds Secondary. And I've been doing poetry my own since 8th grade. But like Scott, other like speech arts and just like acting since before that, like many years, like seven years maybe. Yeah, and I think that it's super important to like be a part of the poetry community, even if you're not actively creating, just like to listen, because it really gives you a new perspective on life and how like perspectives can change, and you can twist them around to pretty much be however you want. Like you can make words into your own reality, and I think that's really cool and powerful. Liv.
So I'm Liv, and I have been going to poetry for quite a while, but I kind of just started this year, and I just started performing only in front of small groups of people, but within the past month. But I've been writing for quite a while, and I love it. I feel like I can understand everything once I get it down on paper, and the feeling when the poem is finally together or even halfway there is really cool. So.
Thank you. Thank you all. I'm going to ask actually Scott to begin with the poem, and I just want to recognize that as we're starting this, and this is something in our school that's really important to us, is, and I know that CFUV did a territorial acknowledgement, but just that what we're about to engage in is storytelling, and we want to recognize that storytelling has been happening on this territory and these territories and Turtle Island for millennia, since the time the ice left, for time immemorial. And that as we engage in this, we're recognizing that we are part of a continuation of that, and just really humbly respecting everything that's come before us and doing it in a way that, as good a way as we can do it, and with speaking our truths, and as Tori said, to ears that are open and hearts that are open to hearing these, as we are open to hearing the stories of the people of this territory. So, Scott, if you want to introduce your poem and kind of maybe give a bit of a background, and then, yeah, have at it.
This poem is called To a World That Wants Me to Be Unknown, and it's about my experience growing up as a queer and transgender teenager. And I think I'll go a little more into it afterwards, but I'd like you to just hear it first. To a world that wants me to be unknown, I will not disappear for you. In days past, I have made myself small, curled up parts of myself until they shriveled from view, but I am tired of binding my presence. I will no longer hide behind my bangs. I will cut my hair, but not for you. Instead, for a truer self, where I am known anew. I change my name for a second time, and by God, world, I'm going to make sure you call me by it. I make sure that you will know me by my true name. With months of waiting wrenched out of my new world, to be told finally the day has come where I can begin to know my body. As I plunge the needle into myself unflinching, I recognize this change will not come easy. But I will break down your gates and take what I need. And you will call me by my true name. Not long after, I meet another boy. I've known him for a while now, yet today I re-meet him in a newer way. We begin to know each other again. He unlocks a second path, making this fight feel instead like an adventure. Yes, he's shown me there is more to worry for. It is a forked path struggle now. But with more worries comes more doors as he leads me down new trails, making this transformation a truly transversible thing. We begin to know each other more. With clasped hands behind doorways, marks unexplained, I cannot tell you what your son did that night as he slept in my bed instead of the floor. As we awaken in the morning behind my locked door, he pulls at the sheets, and I toss the pillows about, making it seem as if he had slept somewhere he never would. I forget to give his jacket back, in hope of something we both keep unspoken. But tonight, love, I want to speak to only you, not the world. For in this moment, our worries melt away. Our room is a perfection untainted by the outside eyes. Here is our perfect moment of silence. With your hands on my body, a body that is both mine and never will be, I can feel that tonight, in your arms, I am known. Thank you. All right. A little info about this poem is that I was actually asked by, I was invited by the mayor of Saanich to write and perform a poem for last year's Pride Week in June when they were doing the announcement of the official government recognition of that. And I got invited as a youth poet to create something that they felt encapsulated my queer experience and something that could be shared with a group of people. And that was truly a great experience to have. I got to speak in front of so many other impactful queer and trans people, and it was like recorded and shown online, and I felt really great being able to express this story that I've just held for so long with myself, this experience that other people have lived, but it's just now becoming sort of a public thing into a wider sphere, and being able to have the opportunity to actually share outward queer love and be accepted for it in a space was just such a beautiful and great moment to have.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Scott. That's,
Thanks.
I remember when spoken word started at Reynolds, I was given a documentary called Slam Nation, and I was teaching English, and I was just like, after watching that documentary, which had Saul Williams and Bosea and a team from Vancouver, it was really incredible. And I was like, wow, poetry could be really done differently in schools. And, you know, fast forward however many years, and now this is it, right? Like, this is kind of the culmination of that from the time Anita Roberts put that DVD in my hand to you being invited by the mayor to express yourself in that way, in this meaningful, beautiful way. So thank you.
Thank you.
Jez.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're up, man.
That's great.
So yeah, so it was really amazing meeting Jez this year. Kind of came like a whirlwind into the room and be like, hey, I hear you do slam poetry. I'm like, I don't do it, but I know other people who do it. And so, so Jez has been writing, and it's been just a light for all of us. So yeah.
Okay, yes. It is called I'm an Honest Poem. It's a bit of a long poem, so I'll get on it. I'm an honest poem. I'm a paper. I never had the chance to be the pen. Instead, I'm the shadow left by the ink that gives it its meaning. Hopefully I can convince my shadow that I'm someone worth following, someone worth giving meaning, but that's far from reality, and now I'm just dreaming, and it's always demeaning, too far from the ceiling, so I've always been reaching. Their pen caused me bleeding, and my blood was misleading, and they always believe it. Can you stop believing I was a paperer? They turned me to poems, so I'm deceiving, then they tore me to pieces so they could conceal it. I've been dealing with healing, dealing with breathing. At this point, I'm underachieving, struggling sleeping, and struggling believing that I'll be exceeding the expectations I've made for myself. Who am I really pleasing? I'm an honest poem. To be honest, I never learned how to swim, but I learned how to run from my problems. I don't know how to draw, but I use words to solve my problems. Build sentences to put me in a false idea of peace. I'm not an engineer, but I use words to build columns. Build foundations that are enough to carry the weight of my dilemmas. I live in a house made of sentences that either has power behind it or has no gravity to it on. It seems like I'm the only astronaut on this planet. I never planned it, but I always write on this planet. This planet is a magnet for my problems. And when I have something to say, then it automatically gravitates to here. So I always think that maybe I'm too honest of a poem. I mean, I speak words that had no gravity when they were bottled up and wanted together to make a sentence. They're much bigger than me. Letters such as ABC hold bigger things than me, so now you see why I'm an honest poem. I'm in the bottom of the sandglass. Questions collapse on top of me. My answers are the questions that lead to epiphanies. My eyebrows are strings and I cry symphonies. I'm an honest song. Sometimes I'm right and sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I write and sometimes I sing a song. I sing along when I'm all alone. I feel more alone when I'm in crowds on my own. I'm known but I'm unknown. I'm a song and everyone else is in a different zone. I'm exhausted. My paper's distorted. I had a meaning, but I tossed it. I put my feelings into this poem. I feel alive when in this poem, but I die slow right in this poem. I'm drowning. I write so much that my words are flooding my room. I think too much that I'll be left with a thought that will lead to thoughts that will leave me in a knot each day. I lose inspiration to write on this paper each day. My mind tells me that the poem is growing blander each day. I learned that this poem has to be me, but I've been written on ever since I was 13. Therefore my poems have grown to be themselves. Therefore this poem had grown to be not me. I was a paper. I was written on and I was stirred into their poem. And ever since then, I've been hiding behind my metaphors, lying through my similes, overthinking through my hyperboles, and contradicting myself to my paradoxes. I've been loud my whole life. Yet I can't speak for the people who need it. People who deserve a loud voice are quiet, and people who need to be quiet are loud. Why do I have to be loud? I can't speak. I can only speak for myself. People who are quiet have better things to say than what I have to say. I'm selfish. Trusting people made me sink. They wrote over me, but I like to wishful think, and I wish that I'm in sync with everyone. I wish that I left ink with every tongue, paint people with my words that originally were rigid, and I always had an air that's always gray. Yet when I did something I love, it turns vivid. Fitted to be gifted, its spirit so timid, addicted to giving so used to. I committed and quitted. My poem consisted of feeling incomplete and defeated. My poem was full of metaphors to hide behind and similes to lie with. My poem was never complete and always felt behind. My poem never had a meaning, therefore I'm only honest when I write poems, but truthfully I'm dishonest. I bet if the quiet person had the chance to speak, their poem will have more meaning to it. Metaphors that symbolizes them, similes that compares, therefore they're an honest poem. I can't speak for the people who need it, so I'll offer you my loud voice. Speak what you need to speak so I can seek inspiration on what you speak. You might be quiet, but what you need to say is loud. Your words have the power to paint people. Letters such as ABC hold bigger things than us, so speak your poem and be proud of it. And maybe I could learn from your honesty. See, a poem is never really finished. It's only done when you're happy with it. There's no limits to a poem, no word count, no restrictions. A poem is what you want it to be. Your life is what you want it to be, and I'm not exactly content with mine, but I have all the time in the world to change it. I have all the time in the world to create a poem that I'm grateful for. Thank you.
To a small group of 3 people. One of the beautiful things about Victorious Voices, if you're able to make it, listeners, is that the room is electric, and the audience is amazing, and they're so welcoming, and there's such a swell of support for each poet and each poem. And so thank you for that, Jez. I know that your 3 teammates are there with you. It was really great. And maybe just throw out something to all of you. If somebody's listening to spoken word for the first time and they're like, man, this is cool. I'd like to hear more. Who would you each recommend somebody go listen to? Who is an inspirational poet for you? Limiting it to 1 or 2 people, or maybe a poem that brought you into this world, or something that just sits with you that you really love. So Jazz, you just went, so why don't you start?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely Rudy Francisco. My favorite poem from him is probably the Starbucks poem. So I got a lot of inspiration from that, especially for my X, Y poem. But no, Rudy Francisco is definitely a really good poet. Recommend, and Phil K. and Sarah K. too, really good poets too. So yeah.
Cool.
I was just gonna say that I think that Harry Baker is an excellent poet. If you've ever seen his TED Talks where he does his poetry, it's incredible. He has really good use of alliteration, and he's been a big inspiration for me for a ton of years.
Very cool. Thanks. Tori?
I don't know. I'm not sure for slam. Like Jess said, Sarah Kay for sure.
Yeah.
And then for more prose poetry, Ocean Vuong. Yeah. I'm reading his novel On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous right now, and it's beautiful and painful, but it's definitely incredible to see how much words can do.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you. And Liv?
I don't know. I think that if you're interested in it and you like hearing it, just go to a slam, because that's what I started doing even before I started writing, and I fell in love with it.
Yeah, and so there's really, obviously Victorious Voices is coming up April 11th and 13th at the Roxy. You can get your tickets through the Roxy website, I believe. And then if you're curious about more stuff in town, the Victoria Poetry Project, and if you just Google Victoria Poetry Project, they host both open mics and slams, kind of post-COVID protocol kind of stuff. As things are opening up a bit more, you can check their website, their Facebook pages, and all their socials to see what they're up to, but they're a great resource as well to seek out for more information about poetry, about slam, and just spoken word in general. So next up, I think we got Tori. So Tori, if you want to introduce your poem and and have at it.
We're in a bit of a tangle. Okay, got it. I think.
You got it?
I think so.
You got it.
Just want to
So the poets are moving around the studio. There's 2 mics and 4 people and 4 sets of headphones and all the cords in the world.
Okay, we got it.
All right.
I think I'm gonna start with, oh boy. It's hard to pick. I think I'm gonna start with one that's called My Painter. It's about my girlfriend. Content warning for like slight body horror. I'm trying to write how I usually write. Trying to write about heartache and rawness in the dark style I'm used to, but I can't stop looking at you. And my soul is too full to be dark, my heart is too warm to be aching, and the rawness isn't scary. You have paint on your face, and you're talking about learning how to can food, and I want to shout my love for you from the rooftops, paint it in vandalism all over the city, color it down your body with my lips, the most lovely shades of purple and blue and eventually green and yellow, looking like art against your olive skin. But you're the artist. You paint. I write. So I guess we're both artists, but I'm writing about you painting, so what am I really? I catch your eyes as your brush lifts from your work. If your brush breaks, you can use my bones and my hair. I see the paint above your eyebrow and both of our faces light up. This is love. It's messy like oil paint. It covers my skin and smothers my insides. I'm loving you like I'm coughing up paint, blood and bile and unsaid words mixing with it on the canvas. But for once the paint isn't coating my lungs and the plastic doesn't choke me. This time it just makes me colorful because you only use oil paint. If you run out of paint, you can use my blood. It would be an honor to be a part of whatever masterpiece you're creating. So far, it looks like an angel. Perhaps in a forest, I'm not totally sure. No canvas left empty, but if you need more canvas, you can use my skin. I can't wait to see the finished product, but I wish you'd never finish so I can watch you paint forever. Now you're looking for a clean brush or water to wash one of the ones behind your ears. My mouth is open, my love, wash them in me. Just please keep painting, don't stop. I still can't quite make out what you're painting, but it seems you're close to done. Your face is set in determination, the paint on your nose scrunching as you focus, but you don't even notice. To my dismay, your trance suddenly breaks. What do you need, darling? I'll get it for you. Anything for you to keep painting. I love watching you paint, with streaks on your face, colors caked in your nail beds. What you need now is somewhere to mix your paint. If you can't find anything to use, I'm scared you'll be done for today. I can't let that happen. I take my eyes out, line the sockets with aluminum foil, mix your paint, use me. Do you need it thinned? My tears would work well, just give me the word and they're yours. I can't see anymore, but I hear your brush strokes resume. Thank God. The last image my eyes ever had was the most beautiful image they've ever seen. You, with paint on your face. My soul is content, and as always, my heart is yours, and now my body belongs not only to you, but to your artwork as well. I'm at peace, but somewhere in another realm, one more spiritual than this one, the soul of another painter sighs. He sacrificed his ear, gave it to the girl he loved. I hear his disapproval in the back corner of my mind and tell him he's not so different from me. Who is he to judge? But he reminds me he never gave up his eyes. He can see my lover's finished painting. It's me. My essence weaved into every aspect. The painting I gave all myself to is me. She painted me. Give me my eyes back. I'm begging, but the soul can't hear me anymore. The bastard cut off his other ear. He doesn't give me my eyes back, but with the blood steadily streaming from the side of his head, he dips a paintbrush made from his own bones and his own hair into the blood and gives me a gift almost as beautiful as sight. He paints a picture on the inside of my mind, the back of my eye sockets. A picture of you, painting me, with paint on your face. Now I can't look at you forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Tori. It's real, it's kind of surreal sitting here with you all, watching you perform these poems, having heard them at school, in first iterations and such. Or is there, there's somebody listening, and they're like, oh man, I could never write like that. why even start? So can you all like kind of, and maybe Tori, you can begin, like, where does one begin, like, the process of stepping into writing poetry, knowing that we are our own worst critics, and that often poems, the poet never thinks that their poem is good enough or complete or what have you. So what's that process that you use to have it come out, to get it to a spot where you're willing to share it publicly? What advice would you give to somebody who might be feeling this way?
If you're thinking like what Brad just said, like, oh, I could never create something like that, that's good, because we don't want all poetry to be the same. We don't want more things of the exact same. Like, create something that's you, not based on what you want. Like, thinking that you have to be like other people to make it beautiful, because there's definitely tons of ways to make it beautiful, and if it's just your authentic writing, then it will be, and it might take time for you to get to a place where you're content with it, but just honestly just practice. Don't try to make it something, just let it be, and then you can, what I do is I just kind of like word dump on the page, and then that's the first draft, and then I can mold it and cut it and shape it into something that more fits my vision from there, but just like getting the words out instead of every sentence, like trying to plan it out before I even put it on the page. That's my process.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyone else want to jump in and share? Liv?
I would say kind of same as Tori, just do it. If you start, that's the hardest part.
For sure.
And I think Jazz mentioned in one of his poems was it's never finished, and it's only done when you want it to be, and there's no time limit on it. Like, you can do whatever you want, so.
You know, I could definitely say something too.
Yeah, jump in, Jess.
I kind of just let ideas flow to me. You know, like, I don't really force it, because I feel like if I force it, I never really make a good poem. But sometimes there's that time limit, like you have to, you know, maybe there's a slam poetry competition you gotta attend, so you have to make a poem then. I think brainstorming with people who have, you know, the same kind of writing abilities or writing theme as you definitely helps a lot, since you guys form an idea, form what you guys want to make, and you guys just go from there, because like starting is the hardest part. So yeah.
I can actually speak on this too. Let me get closer to that. My poetry process, I mean, every poet's process is going to be really different, and it's what everyone said. You just got to start. You just got to start doing it. Again, I wouldn't try and force poetry. When you feel like, a really great place to start is when you're feeling emotions that you feel like you don't know how to deal with, or you don't know how, like, to express in another way. If you just put your pen to paper or your fingers to a keyboard and just start writing, and don't edit yourself at first, don't censor yourself, just let the poetry ghost flow through you, is how I've described it before. And let it take over, write, and afterwards is when you can start working and making it the poem that you've always wanted. But let that first draft come out first is my biggest advice.
Yeah, I have something to add to that, actually. I feel like a lot of there's this advice, like, if you want to get better at writing, do it every day for like an hour. For me, that's not what works. It ends up being forced. Like what Scott says, you just need to like let the inspiration hit you. Don't force it. So for me, like, to get better, I don't write when I don't want to. I wait until the inspiration, and then I let the inspiration, the poetry ghost, flow through me. Yeah. And that's what works best for me, but for some people, like, writing every day, even like little bits, might be what's best for them, so it really depends on the person.
Thank you, yeah, and I believe it's Margaret Atwood who said that there's no good writing, there's just good rewriting. Mm-hmm. Like the idea that editing is the most powerful part of it. So, thank you for that. I think Liv's up. Yeah.
Okay. So this one's called Right. You're never sober when you ask to come over, and I don't really want you to, but I'm kind of too tired to put up a fight. Somehow, every time you leave, I end up feeling worse. I don't know why I thought it would be any different tonight. I really didn't think I could get any lower, but this is love, right? I mean, at that party last week, there was that guy you tried to fight just because he was talking to me, but that means you care, right? That's why your grip is so tight. You never let me out of your sight. You just want me to be all right. I mean, you were on Xans, and you did have a few too many cans, but the only reason you tried to lay your hands was because you wanted me to be safe. I promised I'm yours, so when I'm out with my friends, don't call them whores. Stop saying you'll take the pills off the shelf and that you're going to kill yourself. I'm sorry. I'll do better. This feels a little different from summer. We went for a walk, found a 4-leaf clover. You told me that this is what love felt like when it was true. But now it's October, the weather's a little colder, and so are you, but this is love, right? And that never fades, even if the light is a little less bright, and it feels like I'm walking on eggshells because I'm always scared you're going to start to yell, and in kicks my fight or flight. But you tell me it's all right. Those are just butterflies. It just means I love you, and the tears in my eyes, it just means I don't want to lose you. I can't lose you. No one else will understand what I go through. No one else will care about me like you do. You say I'm so lucky to have you. I'm so lucky to be yours, and this is love? Right. It feels like I'm stuck in a revolving door and the floor's kind of falling out from under me. I can't tell you that, though you'd probably find a way to convince me it just means I'd be lost without you, but I think I'd be okay. If I ever want closure, I need to step out of this revolving door, but before I do, I'd like to thank you for teaching me that love's not supposed to leave scars or bruises. It's not fabricated by excuses. Love's not supposed to feel like someone always loses. I'm done with this roller coaster, with you coming over pretending you're sober and me trying to keep my composure. It's taken me this long to realize it's not my job to try to mend all your loose ends. I don't want to spend the rest of my life being a puppet in one of your little plays, and quite frankly, I don't have anything left to say, so I think it's best if you just let me be and stay the fuck away, because I won't do this anymore. I'm done with the fights. Now I realize that this isn't love, and I know that I'm right.
God, it's just so good, right? Check out your pencil, so good.
Thank you, Liv.
We're gonna cut that off. Okay.
No, and one of the things that I love most, and going back to the last question you guys were all answering, I think that there's an implication that poetry is done alone, or writing is a solo endeavor, when we know, in fact, it's a community of people that bring a novel, bring a poem, bring anything to life. And so, Liv, as somebody who's in grade 12 this year and is kind of sharing poetry publicly in this way for the first time, can you lead out and talk about kind of the role of community in poetry? Like, how did you said you were going to slams, you're going to open mics beforehand, like, what allowed you to create to allow you to emerge into a space where you felt like you could perform publicly, and what role did community have in that, and continue to have in that, in creating and editing and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Well, I had a few friends when I was first starting that really helped me with that push that I definitely needed to get into that. And whether it was just getting me out to open mics or to show up at poetry at lunchtime, things like that. And then I was a bit opposed to sharing at first, but took a couple years, and I started to share, and then through that I started to grow relationships with people and helping build my work into something that I was really, really proud of sharing too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how is it, maybe actually I'll go to Jez with this one. Because I know how much you are open to feedback.
Yeah.
Right? And I know that for myself, that's something that I always struggled with, was somebody commenting on my writing. Even though I know it gets better, like that ego piece always got in my way. And I had to like work to let that go. But tell me about like having people comment on your poetry, because you're very open to it. You're like, give me feedback.
Yeah.
Like, what role does that community have in helping you create the poem that you see?
100%. Feedback really does matter. Like, what I usually do is I write stuff. I get inspiration, I write for 10 minutes, and I'm like, okay, give me some feedback, and I kind of, navigate and edit with the feedback, so I kind of use the feedbacks to be like, oh, this is a poem not just for me, it's for the community. So I love when I, use the feedbacks that my classmates, my peers give me, and I present the poem again for like the second time, maybe third time, and they're like, oh, you used my feedback. I think that's just such an amazing feeling, because it's not just me, it's a collaboration. And I think poetry is definitely a community thing, and it just plays a big part, definitely.
It's a really beautiful sentiment. I hadn't thought about that idea that when you incorporate somebody's feedback, you're validating them too, right? Which is really like saying like, hey, yeah, this was such a cool idea. That's it's very cool. Tori, Scott, what talk to I guess everyone about the role of community and how you kind of are part of it, or how it supports you, how you support it.
Yeah, so I joined the poetry team in grade 9 because I went to like open night with a friend I'd only known for a couple months, and I just like was just gonna go and just like hang out there, and then I performed, and she was like, no, you're coming to the poetry team, and I was like, okay, great. And I was terrified. I was in grade 9. Everybody else on the team was like in grade 12, and I was like, oh, this is. And she's like, I talked you up. Like, they know that you're amazing. And I was like, oh Jesus. But it was like that push. Like, I don't think I would have ever. Maybe I would have, but like, joined the poetry team on my own, gotten as far as I have without that push. Like, you have to do this isn't a choice. Obviously it is a choice, but and then the other way is that I personally have like often I struggle with reaching out for help and like really being open and transparent with my feelings and my struggles, and sharing my poetry is a way that I can be more open with the people around me, and they can actually see things that I don't know how to say in regular words. Like, making it into a poem is like, this is how I'm telling you that I'm happy or I'm angry. This is like how you see what's inside of me. That's the best way. So it's like super vulnerable, but it's also like a huge like way for me to connect with people and for them to see me. And then the other thing is, so many times, like at poetry at lunch, I hear somebody's poem and I'm like, I'm gonna write something based on like that. And I feel like we all kind of do that. We just build off of each other's poems, and just like, so like all of our poems are just like, this part was inspired by a part of this poem from like what they said. They gave me this inspiration and I turned it into something beautiful, and then they're gonna like see their own work in it. And I think that that's all incredible.
Totally.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sure. Okay.
And Scott, yeah, what do you?
This one.
You can use either mic.
Okay. All right. I wanted to talk on the critique one that you were asking about, Jez, because for years I really struggled with people critiquing my work because I took it as this personal hit. I was like, oh, but so much of my work is so raw, it's so me, and it felt like in that moment they're trying to edit me, but that's not what it is. It's really, taking poetry corrections is all about taking the parts that you see that would help you and leaving the ones that don't. It's all about you being able to build your poetry with the help of others and being able to reflect others' ideas and perspectives into it to see how you can improve yourself. Because we only have so many perspectives on the world, and getting those like outside eyes onto your poem and being able to change it to make it even more communicatable to a larger worldview of people it's what editing is about. And it's not a personal attack. It's not about you. It's about helping you to just improve and make work that will be even more impactful and continue throughout your future. So.
Yeah. I think another thing that took me personally a long time to learn is when people give you feedback, you don't need to take it.
Yeah.
Like, if they're like, I didn't like how this part fit in with the rest of it, you're like, okay, thank you for your feedback.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it because it's my poem, but like, I appreciate you giving me your opinion on it like that.
Take what you need and leave what you don't.
Yeah,
totally
exactly.
And not a lot, everything is not perfect. There's always like imperfections. So when you're doing something generally in just life, like, be aware that it's gonna have flaws and imperfections. And getting that feedback and critique, you get closer to perfection, but you're never gonna be perfect.
Yeah.
It's never gonna be finished. So
There's always places to build, but that's a good thing. It just means that you can constantly be creating better work, and that's always a great feeling, You're growing.
Yeah, if one person doesn't like it, that doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means it's not for one person. You can't cater to everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to get you each one more poem for the end of the show. So Scott, do you want to go with your next one? Thank you for all this sharing. It's really beautiful, and
Playing the wire skate.
Scott, I can hold
feel very lucky that other people get to see what I get to see every day.
All right.
We don't see you every day, Brad.
Well, those that come every lunch hour do.
This poem is called Candles, and it's a memorial poem for someone who is still alive. I will light a candle for you when you're gone. When you finally drink yourself to death, I will light you a candle. Like we did that windy day in the courtyard, his large hand shielding your small one, trying to keep that candle burning, trying to keep you alive. Because I got myself a new lighter and finally started smoking. Because I can't stand being more lively than you. I know one day I will get a text from your mother using your wrong name saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry she's gone. And I will not cry for you. I will not cry. But I will light you a candle. I will light you a candle for when you are gone. You changed in 8th grade, cut your hair, and told your mom to fuck off. Got on a 30-year-old's boat and sailed away. Will I ever see you again? I can hope that one day you will wash out to shore and I can heave the water out of your lungs and you will finally breathe again. But for now, I will sit on your beach and I will light you a candle. Your friends rap well as I sit in front of them. They're happy. I wonder if you finally are. You're smoking and we're sitting on some empty cans in a field, and I wonder if maybe I'm trying to save someone who can't be saved. One day I will get a call from your mother and she will be crying because this time you got the number of pills right, and she will be crying because you forgot that kids and drinks don't mix. She will be crying because you finally found your limit. And I won't cry. I will simply stand and breathe because I have been mourning you for a long time. And I will breathe in and I will light you a candle.
Yeah, I was breathing in too. You know?
Thank you, Scott.
It's also amazing about your poems.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot to put a trigger warning on that one. It's about dealing with like a friend who's going through addiction, and it can be heavy.
Yeah.
The experience is heavy.
Yeah, and that's something that I find at Vic Voices, those stories and the lived experiences of people coming through are held so carefully, but there's truth there, right? There's a lot of heavy truth that comes out, and there's a lot of humor, there's a lot of like joy and so much love. So anyone who's might be thinking about coming to Vic Voices, yeah, definitely come with an open mind, open heart, and there's people there to support anyone who needs that support in that moment at the venue. Thank you, Scott. Is Jez? Is that you up next?
I'll go next.
All right,
sure.
there we go.
Okay. So this is about more of a lighthearted poem than the other one. It's called Crushing. And yeah, no, it's about like, you know, liking a girl. But yeah, no, no spoilers. So, okay. I'm gonna be honest. I've been walking the long route to my classes just so I can see you. I've been taking the long route to my house just so I could talk to you. You know, that how are you doing? And that, you know, I'm good, how about you kind of talk? I swear to God, I'm not a stalker, but I've been going up in your house so I could walk the same route as you, but turns out we live so close that I don't even have to try to. I'm gonna be honest. I was lost in your gaze. Your eyes were the gate to your heart, and I've been lost in your maze. Your heart is a labyrinth, and I've been stuck there for days, and with every step I make, it seems like I get closer to you, but I always end up in a dead end. I'm gonna be honest. I've been practicing talking in front of the mirror, thinking of good conversation starters, but I always end up on how's your day? And they say practice makes perfect, but for some reason when I'm in front of you, I start being nervous. How's your day? My heart wants to say that I like you, but my tongue is not letting me, but I'm gonna be honest. I've been writing poems, hoping that someday they'll reach you. The refrains in my poems won't seem to reach you. I put my heart into these poems, but it still doesn't seem to reach. They say iambic pentameter is the same as a heartbeat, so if my poems start to sound fast because I'm talking about you, if my poems are starting to sound like sonnets because I'm writing about you, but 10 syllables and 14 lines is enough to write about how I'm feeling, so maybe that's why it's not reaching you. A labyrinth only has one way out, and I guess I haven't found the way out yet. No, I still remember the day when we talked about your wedding plans. You said you planned your wedding when you were 5, and the location will be at Bali. You know, I'm going to be honest, I don't even have a wedding plan. I just know that my daughter is going to be named Clementine, since our love will grow and flourish as a beautiful tree. But a clementine tree produces around 30 to 50 clementines, so hopefully we'll only have 2 grandkids. You asked me about my future wife, but I didn't know how to answer. But every time I'm asked to describe my future wife, I always say that she'll have a beautiful smile that lightens up the darkest winter nights, a voice that soothes the roughest waves, and eyes that are so heavenly that they make an atheist say, God damn. And every time I'm asked to describe my future wife, it starts to kind of sound like you. But one day I was walking home, and I saw that you were walking with somebody. My brain told me that it was fine, but my heart was set on you. I told myself that it was okay, but when he held you close, I realized that the girl that I thought I was spending the rest of my life with was somebody else. I was being robbed in broad daylight, and there was no one there to help me. My thoughts just started talking, my eyes started talking for themselves. I guess when the brain can articulate feelings and words just come out in tears, I was crushing on you. But I guess what I call it a crush, because the thought of not being able to be with him crushes me. Now seeing you, it's kind of like viewing art. Seeing your face blended with a smile that I didn't paint still makes me smile, but I hate the artist who painted it. He put all his love in his art, and I swear that I did the same, but I think what I did wrong was I tried making you the happiest person when the only one who could do so was you. All he did was assist you through the journey. I heard the pupils dilate when you see someone you like, and when we were talking, your eyes were beautiful as ever. But when I saw you talking with the other guy, your eyes were now heavenly. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't expect a bittersweet ending with you, but also I didn't expect to be with you. I just couldn't get enough of you. Being with you was enough for me, but seeing you with somebody else was too much for me. I guess getting your heart broken by someone you weren't with hurts more than being broken up with, since now you just live in my poems. Seeing you fills me with happiness and bitterness. I was a victim of my own stubbornness. I flew too close to a spot, and I ended up hurting myself like Icarus. Falling in love with you was like carrying a boulder. I'm like a modern-day Sisyphus. You were a labyrinth, and I have to find my way out with the help of Daedalus. I'm not clever, and I never was, so I may never find my way out of your heart. I've been looking for the way out, and I've been running and running and running and running and running, but it made me trip on a realization that I've seen him in your smile before. Your heavenly eyes were never for me. Maybe if we just take him away, I'll only get to see the good version of you. But honestly, I would prefer that than seeing you perfect with him. I'm not hurt that you didn't like me back, since I never even got the chance to tell you I'm hurting, since I loved you too much that I ended up losing myself, and I forgot that maybe, just maybe, someone else is out there for me. And now every time I'm asked to describe my future wife, I have trouble describing who I see myself with in the future. It's starting to sound a lot like somebody else. And now every time I'm asked to describe my future wife, my heart starts crushing. How's that? Yeah. No, but that was heavily inspired by Rudy Francisco. If you're watching, hey, love you. So, yeah.
Shout outs to heroes. Jez will have a shout out from someone one day, 10 years from now. And Tori. Yeah, Tori's up. They're organizing themselves. Just let you know that if you do come to Vic Voices, each poem there is a time limit of 3 minutes, so there's lots, and then there's scoring, and it's just really amazing, but the points aren't the point is the poetry, as they say. And so with that said, here's Tori's second poem for today.
Yeah, I gotta fix my glasses. 1 sec. Okay. This one is also kind of body horror, so content warning. It does not have a name. I am beneath Eden, lain deep within the earth, no sound of breathing, no heart pounding, so quiet, so deafening. I'm lonely, my love.
You walk over me, never beside me, never with my cold, stiff hand in your warm, soft ones. Do you know I'm here? Do you feel my presence under your feet, feel my aching seeping up through the soil? Nobody knows I'm here. I'm so close. The garden of life, mere inches above my still lips. I'm fertilizing the trees as I decay. Who knew Eden thrived off death? God knew. He put me here, and his laws by my soul to lay in unrest, my grave unmarked, my life over, but my consciousness unceased. I'd rather be in hell, even though it's farther from you, being near you, but beneath you, unnoticed and untouchable, isn't worth being near you at all. Let me go, please. Find my body, mark my grave, let me go. I can't blink, but I can't see. My chest has long since stopped rising and falling, but I'm choking on the dirt and debris. My pain receptors are silent, there's no brain activity, but it's excruciating. I feel my skin flake off, my flesh inhabited by maggots, my mouth unspeakably dry, my blood is still within my veins. Please dig, find me. Hold my corpse to you and wet my dirt-caked skin with your tears. Feel my flesh come off beneath your hands. Let me rest. I can't see you, but every day I feel you walk over me. Why can't you feel me too? A dead person shouldn't be feeling more than a living one. I'm nothing more than bones now. Your footsteps above me have grown slower, heavier, more shuffled over the years. You're close to joining me, but you'll be at rest, and I'm still here, still dead, still forgotten. The dirt I'm becoming is filthier, oil seeping into my cracking bones. I don't even want to know what the garden looks like now. I'm mainly dust now, remnants of what once was. I'm less conscious lately, which I suppose is because I'm almost gone. The lessened pain is a relief, but I know once the last of me crumbles to dust, I will simply cease to exist. No peace for me ever. My soul will evaporate. I've been alone for so long in this cold, hard earth, feeding the garden where I used to live, dying after death. Your footsteps rarely come now. I've given up any hope of being found long ago. You'll never know. You'll arrive in the afterlife and see I never showed up, but it'll be too late. At least my pain will be gone. It's a struggle to be now. Within minutes I'll be gone forever. There is no afterlife for me, no next time. There is no me. As the last of me crumbles and the dirt falls to fill the space I once occupied, I hear you above, just inches away, and the last thing I hear is your shovel hitting the ground, where my lips once waited, clutching the last lingering of a kiss, but your shovel hits only dirt now. Goodbye. Too little, too late. You didn't find me.
Amazing. Thank you, Tori. And as we come to the end of this show and this showcase, can I invite Liv up for one more poem, and then I think we'll wrap it for the afternoon.
All right, so this one's a bit shorter, and not sure if it's completely done yet, but I don't know, everything is a bit of a work in progress. So, I have deja vu. Like I've already known you. You're like a line out of a poem I've always wished I could write. One that just sounds good. You roll off my tongue, and immediately everyone feels understood, but you were in the first stanza, and I was in the last. No matter how often our lines crossed paths, it was never the right time. See, you had one too many syllables, it was just never quite the right rhyme, and see, you were heads, and I was tails. We were bound together, but never on the same side. It doesn't matter how hard either of us tried, heads and tails will never collide. Like the sun and the moon. No matter the tides, you always set a little bit too soon, and by the time I rose, there was no place in the sky for the moon. You were a puzzle piece, and so was I. We fit together perfectly, that kind of connection that you can't deny, but your puzzle was a landscape, and mine was a city scene from somewhere in Dubai. We came from different worlds. See, it was always you and me and never us. But it's fine, we never put up too much of a fuss, it's just right person, wrong time. all that stuff. See, you are a line out of a poem I've always wished I could write. In a book I'll never finish, suspended between 2 covers and 1,000 other letters that might hold the key to closure because our story isn't over, but the book is closed. I'm still convinced it's me and you. Maybe in another lifetime our souls will stay intertwined, but I haven't yet found a coin with heads and tails on the same side. And I'm not sure if our sun and moon belong in the same sky, at least not on this timeline. I'm sure somewhere else they'll align and everything else will fall into place. We'll leave all our expectations behind and let our love shine. It sounds so cliche, which really isn't my thing, but part of me still feels like it'll happen someday.
I was a soul idea. Out of my ex-home life.
So thank you to the 4 of you so much for sharing this afternoon, for being such amazing people, poets, ambassadors for spoken word in our community. If you want to hear people like these wonderful poets, Victorious Voices is happening on April 11th, is the semifinals night. So you'll see every poet that night, and then on April 13th, there's a feature and the finals where the top 2 teams from each of the semifinals will compete with each other. And we have like celebrity judges, and it's at the Roxy, and it's all amazing. And just really, as Jazz was doing shout outs earlier, shout out to Jeremy Loveday and to Alicia Glover, who are kind of leading this and getting this back in person with everyone in the community. So, and providing space for, as Jeremy said, 13 years for our youth to share their stories with everyone and to have the stage for 3 minutes at a time. So, so I think that's about it from us. Thank you to you all. You're amazing. Thank you to CFUV for hosting us. And I look forward to having everyone out at Victorious Voices. Buy your tickets. Check it out at the Roxy.
$6 for youth, $10 for adult.
There you go.
Tune in to CFUV 101.9 FM Mondays from 11 to noon for CFUV Presents, the best of CFUV's podcasts. You can stream online at cfuv.ca.
I was like, what the? There was echoes and reverb on the. Yeah. Like, I could hear my pants moving. I'm like.
That was so good. I was like, dude, you gotta
I know. I couldn't hear it.
I was like leaning back away from the mic.